Hello, I'm going to show you how to do this, how to get Google Earth 3D into Rhino so that you can do all sorts of stuff, but specifically at our stage, massing models in the site context. Um, it can be a little bit tricky. I've tried to make it as easy as possible for you by packaging everything up together and giving you my API keys and all sorts of stuff. In this handy dandy Google Doc that I made, you can click this link where I've packaged everything that you need into this Blender OSM Google Earth Imports folder. Right here, you can download it, and currently I packaged everything into one gigantic file. If you don't want to download it as a single giant file, then you can go into it and then download this stuff separately. These are the four things that you would need. You need the Blender 4.2 install. You need the Blosm, which is the plugin. And then this ready for blossom.blend, that's the template that I made for Blender. And then there's also a folder called assets. These four things need to be downloaded, and that you put them somewhere on your computer, not just your downloads folder. And I've already unzipped the Blender folder. So like when you get the folder, if you've never unzipped before, just right click and extract all. Don't extract the Blosm 2.7 premium zip. Leave that zipped, but the Blender you need to unzip, and then you can go into and do the Blender launcher. That opens up Blender. Blender is a great program for animating and rendering. I use it for rendering the most. It's the best though because it's completely open source and free. So there's just a giant community of people that are adding to it, and it's the fastest growing program for 3D modeling. I'm gonna escape out of this and open up the Ready for Blossom template. Don't worry about this scary looking code. Just grab that and put it to the side. We have to install the plugin, edit preferences, and you could go to System and set up your graphics card to the CUDA and your NVIDIA if you have it. Otherwise, go to Add-ons, go to Install, and in this folder, it's the Blosm 2.7.10, and you can install that. Then type Blosm to find it, turn it on, and there's a few things you gotta do here. One is set the directory to download the terrain files in the OpenStreetMap. So that is that folder called assets. So in this, you can set that to that and accept it. Once get to the folder that you can see this stuff and accept there. Then the that's to go here. Assets, accept, and that this terrain one you actually want into. You can make another folder called terrain and accept that. Now the Mapbox access token in the Google 3D Tiles access, I've very conveniently for you set that all up already. In future semesters, you should do this yourself, but you just gotta paste in the Mapbox access and the Google Tiles access. When you do that, you can just click the Get It here, and it'll work. So my current API key is right here, but at a certain point, my trial runs out, and then I'm going to start. Just get your own; it's free. So then, once that is set up, I can X out of this, and just pulls this thing on the side, and I'm in Blossom, and now everything should work. I can first find a place in the world to download. I'm going to select, and I'm going to go, I kind of want to get some topography. So let's go to the bottom Italy here or something. And once I zoomed in, show selection rectangle. Obviously, the bigger area you ask for it to download, the longer it's going to take. I suggest starting with something small and then like working your way up just to get a feel for how long it's going to take. Then when it's downloaded like this, I'm going to select copy, and it's going to copy the coordinates like that, and then go back to Blender and paste these coordinates. So it pasted that in from the other thing, and there's a few things I can download here. There's the terrain. We can download that first. That's just like a surface of the ground. There's the OpenStreetMap, which is the roads and like buildings as blocks, really basic blocks. And then there's the Google 3D tiles, which is like the hot money stuff. I'll do the terrain first and click import. I waited a little bit and it looks like nothing's there. I've learned that you just, while it's selected, go to the modify thing and then turn off this, and then you can zoom out with the mouse wheel and press down on the mouse wheel to orbit around, and that gives us the actual terrain here. Next, I'll do the OpenStreetMap, and everything's already set up. I'll just hit import again, and some time will pass, and boom, there's the buildings from this. Next is the hot money stuff. This is the Google 3D tiles. So I'm gonna turn off the terrain and unclick this other stuff because it's separate. Click here, 3D tiles. Now there's various levels of detail. I suggest you could start off with groups of buildings and then get a feel for how long it takes. A final pass might be building with more details, but you might let that go overnight if you're like downloading all of Manhattan or something. I'll just do separate buildings for now, and then I might speed up the download. Import. It'll take a minute or something. Takes a tiny bit longer. Go to the bathroom, get yourself a drink of water, make yourself a cup of tea. Before I finish the tea, Cool. It looks like it's garbage, right? It looks like it's like just gray mush. Click this up here, and boom! Look at that. Look at that stuff. That's great. All 3D, right? Depending on the level of detail, it'll get even more refined. If you look at it as a mesh, it's kind of janky mesh, but with the texture, it's great. In order to move this into Rhino now, I'm going to select the whole thing, and scrolling down on this, I need to replace the materials. So I'm going to click that. Notice how that made it look a little bit different, and now it's like kind of shiny. If I click this, which is like the render tab, wireframe, solid with basic texture and like light rendering. I already set up there to be a sun in this. So if you want to play with the sun and the shadows and all that, you got to find the latitude and longitude of where you're working with. So what was this roughly? It was 38 and 15.6, 38.2, 15.6. So 38.2, 15.6, enter. And here we have the sun. And depending on the day and month of the year, I can, look at that. Look at that. So the sun is going over and leaving shadows on everything. But I've also might notice like the surface is like a bit shiny. It's probably like shinier than it needs to be. So that's what that script is over on the side. While this is selected, pull this out enough so you can see this plus sign or the play, and then click that just once, then you can close that. It's fine. That's why I made that there, is to make this not shiny. So if you want to do any renderings, and 0, if you have a number pad, goes into your camera. Holding shift and pressing down on the mouse wheel can pan it when you are in the camera. I can just leave the camera or whatever. I can even figure out when this 3D scan of, like, from Google, when it happened based off of reverse engineering the times. So I want to get these shadows that are live to match up with the shadows in the actual scan. So I have that time of day right, but I think this is more in the winter because these shadows are longer. Almost. No. There we go. So it's possible that this 3D scan from a satellite was done around mid-February, around noon of that time. Cool, right? Okay, so this is ready to be brought into Rhino, right? So File, while it's selected, File, Export, and export it as a GLB. It's going to put it in this example on my desktop. I don't have to have it as an animation, and just the selected objects. I'll first just make this as one mesh, and then I'll do another export of the other stuff, the terrain. So I'll export that. That's done. I'm going to hide this again and turn on the map.osm and this. And then while this is all selected, you can do that or just hit A on the keyboard. While that's all selected, I will file export this to a GLTF and just include this example 2.glb. Okay. Okay, now I don't think I need this anymore, and I can open up Rhino. See how long this takes. Oh, not too long. Okay. Kidoki, and file, import, and find your example. And it might take a little bit. How long does it take? There it is. And again, right, it looks kind of janky when it's just a bunch of surfaces like that. And you should definitely put all this on one layer. So, like, select it all and put it on layer 5 and name that as Google Earth Tiles. And it won't show until you go into rendered. There it is in Rhino, looking fancy. Say I want to get that other stuff, like I want just the terrain to build on it if it's like mountains or something, then I can turn that layer off and then file, import the other thing, and there that is. You might notice, okay, so I need to bring all this into that layer. You might notice that this doesn't perfectly match up. It's not 100% of the terrain, which is very conveniently an even mesh like that. Doesn't 100% match up with the Google Earth tiles. You can split the difference, whatever. That's up to your critical thinking skills. Did I show you everything? I think I did. I think that's the basics of it. Made it easy for you. Blender is great too if you want to render stuff. Say I turn that off and turn that on like that. I can get this into position with the camera and render image. It is putting the other things on because it was like that. Let me re-render that. Nice. So if I had some like metaball blob texture, when I render this, there it be, and then you just like save this image once it's done rendering. Oh, so it's there, save as, yeah, PNG. There's animations, there's all this stuff. I don't have to show you all that stuff. I showed you the stuff. That's it. Okay.